Welcome to part one of my video on the infinitely amazing and interesting Thomas Ince. I call him the man who invented Hollywood, and for a very good reason. But his death is what everybody remembers. Let's find out why. Hi everyone, and welcome to Tragic Hollywood on the Town Star of the Week. This week we're going to be talking about a guy that most people haven't ever heard of, but he was very, very instrumental in establishing Hollywood as we know it. And I call him the founder of Hollywood. He was also embroiled in one of the very first and very notorious scandals in Hollywood. His name is Thomas Ince, and we're going to talk about him today. Even if you don't know who he is, you might be interested in what he was involved in, and you might be interested in how he died, because how he died haunted somebody very, very famous for the rest of their lives. Every time you mention this man's name, this very famous man turned pale as a sheet and changed the subject very quickly. We will find out why in just a second. Meantime, if you like my content, please watch the videos. I need the watchtowers. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button right here, and to be notified of my new videos. My video on most overrated movies is my best video so far. So I'm going to try to do more of that content if you like it. Please check out my books on Amazon right here. There's a link in the description for this channel. I also have a Patreon in which I post a bit more gruesome photos. If you're interested in seeing more gruesome content, you can join my Patreon. I have a Facebook page with over 190,000 followers. I go into big detail about each star that I talk about. I mean, like I think there's like a 20 or a 30 photo tribute of Thomas Ince alone, and each photo has a detailed caption on what was going on with Thomas Ince at that time. So I know you're saying, who the hell is Thomas Ince? Well, let's actually get into who Thomas Ince actually was. So Thomas Ince is in my book, Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Dead. This is his chapter. Because he's fascinating, and because he's linked to two very famous people, Marion Davies and William Randolph Hearst. We're going to find out about how he's linked to them later. He's fascinating for one pretty big reason. He sort of invented the way people made pictures in Hollywood. He started off on the East Coast. He was born in 1880 in Rhode Island, and he was a failed vaudeville performer, so he didn't do very well in vaudeville as an actor. But he started directing these short western, these kind of like very quick short westerns for a company for Carl Laemmle. This was in New York. Hollywood was not a thing at this time. This was early on in the early part of the turn of the last century. But he was not happy with his success. He didn't have much. He was a small bit player. He wanted to do something big. So he borrowed a diamond ring and a fancy suit, and he went to see a man named Charles Obaman. And Charles Obaman had a studio, and they were sort of experimenting with making pictures out in California where the weather was better. And so he told him he was an accomplished director of westerns, and he could make really good pictures for him. And this guy ate it up. His little ploy ate it up. And soon Mr. Ince found himself in Hollywood. And what he did in Hollywood was nothing short of revolutionize the movie industry. He was one of the very first men to do this. He came before Louis B. Mayer. He came before Irving Thalberg. He came before William Desmond Taylor. He came before Cecil B. DeMille. He was one of the very first film producers. And some of the techniques that he employed were considered revolutionary at the time. People are still using today. So he doesn't really get enough credit for being the pioneer filmmaker that he was. He was the first one to build a modern film studio. And let that sink in. Okay, I'm going to read this part in my book. Ince went on to change the entire film industry by building the first prototype of a modern Hollywood movie studio. He developed writing and film techniques that are standard procedure today, such as the use of shooting scripts and second unit directors to shoot separate scenes simultaneously. He essentially built he invented shooting on location, which really nobody had ever thought to do before he came along. He realized that he needed a place where he could have more control over every aspect of filming. So he built a compound in the Santa Ynez Canyon near Santa Monica that would later be known as Inceville, the first working movie studio. By all accounts, Inceville was amazing. Several thousand acres were filled with stages, along with whole neighborhoods of multicolored houses, from the humblest shack to the most gigantic mansion. Architectural styles of many countries and periods were on hand, from Japanese villages to French chalets. He even hired performers from Wild West shows to live on site, including an entire Sioux tribe who happily pitched their tents there. William S. Hart, famed Western star, was first coaxed into film by Ince on a tour of Inceville. The story goes that Hart had a fear of horses, and so he couldn't work in Westerns. But Ince coaxed him to mount a pony, so short his feet nearly touched the ground. This worked for Hart, who started doing Westerns, and the rest is history. William S. Hart was a famous silent Western star. Not too many people remember him today, but you can actually visit his estate. It's near Castaic out there, and you can actually visit it, Southern California. William S. Hart loved Inceville so much that he ended up buying it from Thomas Ince. So then Thomas Ince went on to found Culver City Studios, which is still there. And that building, the main building, is still there. So I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about when I say he was really the founder of the modern Hollywood studio. He really was. And he knew everyone, all the famous stars. He produced many of their films. So it's not surprising that he was invited on William Randolph Hearst's yacht. And this is where the mystery ensues. It was for his birthday. He was turning 44, I think. If I'm wrong, you can tell me down below in the comments. He was turning 44. And to celebrate his birthday, Marion Davis, she was very well acquainted and good friends with Thomas Ince, she decided to throw a birthday party for him aboard the Oneida, which is William Randolph Hearst's yacht. And everybody was there. I think Charlie Chaplin was there, and Hearst was there, and Ince came aboard, and there's a picture of Marion Davies standing on the dock with a bunch of balloons welcoming Thomas Ince aboard the Oneida. Ince would leave that ship mortally wounded, and he would die a few hours later. How this happened has been discussed. It's called the Thomas Ince Affair, and it's been whispered about and discussed openly in Hollywood for decades because nobody really knows what happened. Let's take a look at what I think happened. It's in my book. Well, there's a lot of rumors about what actually happened on board this yacht. It was a party. Marion Davies has said in her own biography she denied that it was a birthday party for Ince. She said she only invited Ince at the last moment because his wife asked them if he could be invited because she thought he'd been working too hard. His wife, Nell. But others insist it was a birthday party, and then there's that picture of Marion Davies on the yacht holding the balloons. So who knows? Marion Davies says there was no drinking on board the yacht that night. Others say, yeah, there was booze. And Ince told his doctor while he was dying that he had consumed alcohol on board the ship. So, who knows what happened? This is why this is such a mystery. So many weird things happened. But one thing we do know is that Ince fell deathly ill that night. He was the only one to fall ill, so it couldn't have been food poisoning. And there was a doctor on board. And in the very early morning hours, the doctor decided he needed to be taken somewhere, but he didn't take him to a hospital. But the yacht docked in San Diego, and they took him off the yacht via stretcher. That's how sick he was, okay? And on the way to a hospital, supposedly, he began suffering a heart attack, they said. And so they took him to a hotel room. Why? I don't know. Usually if someone's suffering a heart attack, you go to the hospital. This was the 20s. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. So while he's in this hotel room, he's attended by two physicians this time. The onboard physician, Dr. Goodman, and another physician. And they begin treating him. They call his wife. She comes rushing over to be by his side. And when it's clear he's not really doing very well, instead of taking him to a hospital, which is what most people would have done, they take him home to Los Angeles, where he dies the following day in his loving wife's arms. He's 44, I think. If I'm wrong, let me know. What happened? What happened, Mr. Ince? What happened on board that yacht? I would buy food poisoning if other people had gotten sick, but you're the only one that ended up sick and dead. So what exactly happened? Let's take a look and see what I say in my book. In part 2, we're going to find out just what happened on that yacht, at least what I think happened. Nobody but the people who were there really know what happened, and some of those people denied they were even there at all. But this incident haunted William Randolph Hearst for the rest of his life.